So I want to give a quick welcome and turn the podium over to Jeff Lynn, President of Central Alabama Community College.
Thank you all. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's great to see you in person as well. And thank you all for joining us today. So it's great to see a lot of great familiar faces. Welcome to CAC. This is one of 4 campuses we have. I'm going to kind of go through a brief overview of some things, and then we've got a special guest later, a good friend of mine I haven't seen in several months, so it's good to see you get caught up. Central Alabama Community College, it's new to me. We've got a fairly new team. Michael Barnett's here. So Michael in the back is our new Dean of Workforce. Some of you may have known Michael in the past. He was at the system office. And so we have 4 campuses here, Alex City, which is kind of the main campus. We have another campus in Talladega that we're really trying to reboot and get things going up there. We've got some really cool, exciting news that may come out in about 6 months. As soon as we get approval from the Department of Defense, we've got some really cool things for the first in the Southeast that we're going to do up there. And we just bought a brand new campus in Prattville. We bought the old East Memorial Baptist Church, 124 acres, 50,000 square feet. We bought it in third week of December, moved in over the holidays, and started our first class last Monday. So it gives us a lot of room to advance, add a lot more workforce programs that we were prohibited by because we were located into a kind of a second floor shopping center next to a vape shop. So it wasn't ideal for us. So we've got room to really grow, mainly workforce and academics as well. So this is kind of the square footage of where we are around. We look at a lot of demographics, median household income, unemployment rates, poverty, and many, many other data points that help us make decisions of what we offer to our students. The beauty about the community college, and our youngest students are around 12, and our oldest students are in their 80s, and everybody in between. So we operate day, night, weekend, and we add value wherever we go. Of course, the community college was originally the junior college system, and this campus was Nunley State Technical College, and so they merged a few years ago. And so now the community college houses the technical colleges across the state as well. And so academic transfer was one of the key points there. We've got some really cool articulation agreements. I've been full-time president since March of last year, so since then we've got a really unique articulation agreement with Troy University, where they take our technical students that graduate in workforce, and they have a new degree, and so they go in there. They teach them how to become teachers in ag or technology or whatever at our post-secondary high schools or in the industry, and so that's a really cool thing. And they give a lot of good scholarships, and so our other one that we worked out with was AUM. We have a great program with them, and they do a lot of scholarships. We're working with Auburn. We've got a really cool state-of-the-art professor, Dr. Jeremy Carr, in our chemistry lab, who's got it mapped out where coming to CAC, you can get your associate's degree and then go to one of their 27 schools of agriculture. Some of them are really cool because we're trying to create hubs where we focus on the needs of the communities. And I'll give you one example, like pharmacy. It's hard to find pharmacists in the rural areas, so if we can get really young, energetic students to come to us, transfer to Auburn, get their pharmacy degree, and then move back to their home roots and set up a shop, that's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to grow the economy and try to be really good stewards of our money and your money. We have a lot of other programs that we're about to start really soon as well, and I'm just going to kind of go through these rapidly. Dual enrollment's extremely important for us, both academically and career technical education as well. We've moved up to now number 2 in the state as far as students that we offer dual enrollment with. So we've got meetings this week with some of the other programs. We have about 39 high schools that feed into CAC in various locations, some medium, small, large, and homeschool. So we have great programs for homeschoolers as well. As you know, thanks to the legislature, they give us a lot of funding for career technical education. It's phenomenal. They've given us money last year, allocated some money for some STEM classes, which is second to none. I think Alabama's probably leading the charge on that nationwide of what they do. So big thank you to our state legislature for helping us with that. Our workforce division has really taken a new path, new vision since we got Michael on board. We just started a new marine tech program. Just think of all the river region, the lake regions, et cetera. There was no one to really train our mechanics to work on our boats. And if you did have someone work on your boat, you paid way too much. And so we've got that program going. We're refurbishing a building near our campus that we own, off-site of our campus, to house that, along with our construction. We're going to be starting some major construction programs at several of our campuses as well. More news on that. So these are just a few programs. We just started a brand new LPN program down at the Prattville campus. We have permission from ASIN to start that, our governing body. We're starting a lot of manufacturing programs wherever we can start them. We just signed an MOU with AIDB in Talladega, which was really cool. So we had dual enrollment students coming to us. They started their classes last week. And so that's the beginning of some programs we're going to be doing with AIDB. We're going to offer every program that we have for AIDB, and they'll just bring them over. Some more healthcare programs, phlebotomy, medical administration certification, et cetera. And then also truck drivers. So truck drivers are the huge demand. We had one story that aired on WSFA the other day, Channel 12 out of Montgomery, where this kid rode his bike 13 miles to come into class. And so everybody found out about it, so he didn't ride his bike anymore. They took care of him. But now he's making mid-50s. And so he couldn't afford a car. Now his improvement in life is greatly increased just with a 6-week class for CDL. We offer work keys as well. Some companies use it, some don't. We just use it to help skill sets for people. Our adult education, I think, still is probably the most important thing that we do statewide. Quite frankly, there's 500,000 people that qualify for that. This is a lot of people, for whatever reason, they just never achieved their high school equivalency or GED. So we have pathways once they get their GED or high school equivalency and put them into manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, whatever types of programs, construction, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to do those programs as well, so you'll see more news soon. These are just some other stats that we look at, and I just picked on Tallapoosa County. So we look at, the number of millennials versus this size of a community and other parts of the state, retiring people, racial diversity. Those are all mixes that we look at for programs that we need to offer. Look at the labor force breakdown, the age-wise, and then we work with the community, the mayors, the city council, the county commissioners, to really focus on quality of life and different things that we can work together on from a community college standpoint. We're trying to bring the community back into the community college across the state of Alabama. So we look at job trends as well. We kind of help forecast that with the communities. We look at the labor force participation rate. You'll probably hear more about that from my good friend Fitzgerald. And then we look at the inbound, outbound migration. Where are people coming from, where are they moving to, and why? And then what can we do to influence that to see? We also look at in-demand skills to make sure that we have certifications, 2-year degrees, et cetera, to focus on them. We look at educational attainment. That's really, really critical. I was very fortunate with Ed Castile. We co-chaired this program for Governor Ivey recently. And so that's one of the biggest ways to grow the economy, is to raise that attainment goal for your community. We're also focused on veterans, as many other students are. We're building out a Veterans Resource Center at our Alex City campus. We'll probably be doing the same for our new Prattville campus. So that's very, very important. New staff, I've got a new Dean of Workforce, Michael Barnett, new Dean of Academics, Dr. Brian Johnson from Sanford. He was there 25 years. A new Dean of Students from Troy. She's been there for 20 years. So we got a brand new team, great group of people, bringing in directors now that really focus on the students and the community. So, and working 24/7, whatever we need to. Talladega, I mentioned some things about them, and more news on that later, about 6 months once I get permission to talk about it publicly. and then Childersburg here. So we're going to be doing a lot of renovations on this campus in Alex City. I will say that on this campus and Alex City, we have a company out of Birmingham, Southern Research. You might have heard of them before. They have two divisions. They have a pharma division and then a DOD division. Their DOD division is hiring only our machinists. Our machinists come out prepared to the level they need. If you're not familiar with them, they actually make the cones of the ICBMs and also the hypersonic missiles. Our last meeting up there, and I'm not sharing anything I shouldn't, but we're number 3 in the world now. China and Russia are really way ahead of us in technology on the hypersonic. So it's pretty cool that we're producing students that actually go and help in the defense of our nation through machining. And so you'll hear more about what we're doing with the Department of Defense soon from the Talladega campus. We were the only two-year college to get a grant from DOD recently, and we're focused on really improvements of what we can do for those great people. What we want to do is engage, listen well, and focus on the future, provide programs that are fitting for companies, for business and industry, for academics, for students, and the community. So welcome. I'm really so happy that y'all are here, and I'll pass it back to you, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. It is always so nice to be here on the CAC campus. Your hospitality and your team makes it really feel like we're at home every single time we come. So thank you so much, Jeff, for that great update on what's going on at CAC. So just a few housekeeping and event opportunities. Housekeeping, if you need the restrooms, they are right outside the hallway on the left-hand side, probably on the right-hand side. So you'll find them there. In the back of the room, there was an agenda. It's a two-sided agenda, so I hope you got that. Also, you should have a handout from Terry Comer on the Alabama Workforce Stabilization Program. If you did not grab one of those, we're going to make sure that you have one because it's going to be critical to the information that Terry is going to share later. So I wanted to talk about a few things coming up, some workforce events and some workforce opportunities. So the Governor Survey of Employee Competencies, that is out currently. The survey deadline is January 31st. There's a survey link you see on the screen on your agenda. And then on the back side of the agenda, you have a QR code. I decided for anything that you needed to register, you could find a QR code on the back of it, so that way you didn't have to type in that really long either website, email address, or whatever you needed to get access to it. So we need as many business and industry partners to complete that survey. It's really looking to help with those competencies to drive and deliver better training for our employers. Worlds of Work, we can't come and have a quarterly workforce meeting or any other meeting where we have more than 3 people together and not talk about Worlds of Work. I was sitting there looking at the banner, and it talks about working together with one student at a time and training one student at a time. Worlds of Work really trains about 8,000 students at a time. This year, we are actually looking forward to Worlds of Work being back in person. Just like we are in person here, our students are craving that in-person engagement. I want to give a shout out to our career tech directors who are in the back of the room. They have been here since 9 o'clock this morning, working on programming and collaborating together to deliver better career tech programming to our students. So we appreciate you guys always leading the way in career tech across the state. But with Worlds of Work, we are going to be back in person. We realize that COVID numbers are currently at a high level currently. We have bi-weekly calls with EMA professionals, hospital officials, and infectious disease control doctors to make sure that we are going to deliver the very safest event that we possibly can. So we have a plan A, we have a plan B, and we have a plan A.1, A.2. We're going to make sure that the students that we have that come to Worlds of Work, our career presenters, all our volunteers, are in the safest environment that we possibly can. We're still going to deliver career pathways over 10 different career worlds, our traditional career worlds, plus this year we're going to add education and training. We have realized that many of our education professionals already have known that we have a massive teacher shortage. an emphasis on the massive. Probably right now, we could have 60% of the education workforce that could either retire or retire in 5 years. So we need to get those students interested in those opportunities. My mother was a teacher, my aunt was a teacher, I wanted to be a teacher, but now here's an opportunity that I can have to help the education world in a different kind of way. So we are currently working with our world leaders to seat those career presenters. We have 7 counties, 7 workforce regions, 7 counties in our workforce region, and we will be presenting those careers to 15 different school systems. We have all of our 8th grade and virtually every single person in the 11th grade in our 7-county workforce region attending Worlds of Work over those 3 days. Be March 15th, 16th, and 17th, and we're really looking forward to having that in-person event. Our schools have been very supportive, our business and industry partners have been very supportive, as well as our sponsors, and so we're very excited about that. Also coming up, leadership skill training, probably my 3rd day on the job, I heard from business and industry that they needed more leaders. The AIDT leadership training is a great way to do that. So Leadership Skills 2 will be on February the 9th. They're going to be hitting on those things like personality styles, time management, feedback, and conflict management. Any of you in this room see those traits and really wish that your employees had better skills to deal with those? They can do that through the leadership skills class. It is a 1-day class. The virtual classes are all at no cost to our citizens. We also call it free, but we really don't want to say free, so we say at no cost to Alabama citizens. Leadership Skills 3 will be March the 9th. They're going to hit on emotional intelligence, critical thinking, employee motivation, and change management. I think we all have adapted to our current circumstances, but we all could probably do a better job in adapting to that and in motivating our employees. That critical thinking, those are, again, really some very necessary skills. That class, again, is a 1-day class, and again, it will be free to those that register. We're going to be doing virtual classes between now and July, and then starting at that point, we'll start moving back to maybe an in-person class. We love our in-person classes, but we also realize that we have citizens that have been taking the virtual classes and want to complete that series of 3. You can join at any point in time. You don't have to take Leadership 1, then 2, then 3. You can take it in any order that you want to. There are 3 standalone classes. The link to register is on the East Alabama Works website, so go there and you can get all the information you need to register for the upcoming classes. Alabama Works webinar series. This is a monthly series that the Alabama Workforce Council and the Alabama Works brand does once a month. The upcoming webinar will be next Monday, January the 24th, on workforce education in 2020. What will it look like? Pardon me, in 2022, what will it look like? So to join that webinar, it's a Vimeo link. You can also find the link to register on your agenda. And then we're real excited about this next opportunity, work-based learning. Alabama Commission on Higher Education, as well as the Alabama Department of Economic Partnerships for Alabama, they did a survey called Retain Alabama. Retain Alabama looked at several different factors, and one of the things that they discovered was work-based learning was a real key to people staying in Alabama. We want to keep them here and educate them here and put them to work here. So the regional best practices will be held in East Alabama Region 2, February the 10th. It's going to be at Gadsden State Community College at the Ayers campus from 9 to 3:15. There will be 4 different honorees that will present their work-based learning. You'll see those on the screen. And we're very excited. Again, that link to register is on your agenda and the QR code on the back. There is no charge. We just do need you to register in advance. Any questions about those upcoming events? Great. So now I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker. When you are going to have your first in-person meeting in 2 years, you look for somebody who's going to deliver a message that we know is timely as well as important. And so you look for that person that you know is a champion for your region and for your state, and that is Secretary Fitzgerald Washington. He's a great friend of Region 2, and we want to bring forth Secretary Washington.
Good afternoon, everybody. Is everybody doing well? Good, good. It's certainly an honor for me to be here today. A lot of you I've not seen in quite some time. For the past 24 months or so, I've been sort of locked up in quarantine in my office in Montgomery on Zoom calls, WebEx calls, and MS Team calls. So I'm actually glad to be out and see everybody. You guys look kind of stiff today. Is it me? Is it because this is the first time you guys have been together in person? Is that it? Okay, good, good. Wow. There's a lot for me to cover in a short period of time, so the focus of my conversation is going to touch on a lot of hot points, a lot of things that really has gone well in state government, a lot of things that went really, really well at ADOL, but also I'm going to talk about some challenges. Can I pull this microphone out? You know, before I get started, I have to recognize one of my fellow colleagues and coworkers at the Buffalo Rock Pepsi Company. Prior to my appointment to my appointed role, I spent, again, 15 years for Buffalo Rock Pepsi. And over here to my right, we've got a regional vice president in the room, Alan Skelton. Alan was with Buffalo Rock when I was there, and we did a lot of positive things, a lot of really good things. And so it was really exciting for me to see your name on the listing as being a participant here today. So certainly appreciate you being here. Also, my Career Center staff is here too. So the people from my Career Center staff, let's see y'all's hands raised up real high. Those are my people. So we manage 53 Career Centers statewide. We touch all 67 counties in the state. So it's really excited to have my Career Center folks here in the room. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the last 22 months has been quite challenging for the state of Alabama. Not just unique for the state of Alabama, but nationally, there's been a lot of challenges due in part to the pandemic. But guess what? Alabama's done really, really well in terms of how we rebounded from a real dire situation to where we are right now. So the focus of my conversation today is going to center around challenges that we face, success stories, but also where we're moving forward. And so let me start by talking about our November numbers. I mentioned November because our December numbers hasn't been released yet. We'll release the December numbers, in fact, this coming Friday. So everything I reference in terms of our data is going to be from November. So our unemployment rate for November is 3.1%. 3.1%. That's 0.5% away from where we were pre-pandemic. As you recall, back in February of 2020, the state was experiencing the lowest unemployment rate in state's history at 2.6%. Then all of a sudden, what I call the tsunami hit Alabama, and all of a sudden we've been kind of pulling ourselves out of the hole since then. We went from the lowest unemployment rate in the state at 2.6% to a high of an unemployment rate in April at 13.2%. So can you imagine? 2.6, the lowest unemployment rate in state's history, then all of a sudden, in a month and a half, we went to a rocket high of 13.2%. So that can tell you the impact that the mass layoffs caused due in part by the pandemic. So let's fast forward. I mentioned our November numbers. Again, 3.1%. For four consecutive months in a row, our unemployment rate has remained the same at 3.1%. Also, 13 consecutive months in a row, Alabama's unemployment rate has been the lowest unemployment rate versus any Southeast neighboring state. Isn't that awesome? So for those who haven't been around me when I do presentations, you know, when I say something positive, I mean, I got to get an applause or something. Because we've been working hard. I mean, think about it. Pre-pandemic, the unemployment rate was at the lowest it ever had been at 2.6%. And then fast forward, our November rate is at 3.1%. 4 consecutive months in a row in 2021, our unemployment rate has been at 3.1%. For 13 months in a row, our unemployment rate has been the lowest versus any southeastern state. And then all of a sudden, Georgia comes in. Georgia comes in and it came in and registered lowest unemployment rate in November versus the southeastern state at 2.8%. Now, what a coincidence that Georgia would beat Alabama by having the lowest unemployment rate in 13 months, and they beat us on the gridiron in the national championship game. What a coincidence is that? But it's a reality. We're so excited about where we are in terms of where our rate is. This next slide kind of speaks to, let's see. This next slide speaks to the highest job count in 2021, 2,071,000, November 2021. Now, at the height of before the pandemic hit, we're at 2.2 million people. That represents the number of people that actually had jobs. Think about how incredible that is. We're right there. We're right there knocking on the doorstep of getting us back to where we were pre-pandemic. Right there. And that's strong. And we should all be excited about that. The number of people that we record as unemployed. Back in November, it was at 150,000 people. November 2020 that did not have a job, was out of work. Right now it's about 68,000 people that's unemployed. Question? Yeah, oh, absolutely. And in fact, I'll make sure these slides are made available for everybody in the room. Okay. I won't charge you for it either, okay? So 150,000 people we recorded as unemployed in November 2020, and right now it's about 68,000 people in November 2021 that we recorded as unemployed. So that tells you how our economy has rebounded and everybody's getting back on firm footing. New wage records. The average weekly wage for these three sectors, if you can see manufacturing, record high in wages, right at $1,200. Leisure and hospitality, over $400 per week. And then professional and business services, $1,200 per week. This is huge. These are record highs. Record highs for the state in terms of how employers have actually raised their wages so they can attract more help. This is significant, especially the graphic in the middle where it talks about leisure and hospitality. All the major workforce groups in our state have rebounded since the pandemic in terms of their hiring practices, except for leisure, hospitality, and restaurant sector. Now, traditionally, those sectors have been paying a little bit lower wage. And those are the sectors that are struggling to try to find help. All you got to do is ride around the state of Alabama and see all the now hiring signs. The majority of the signs that you see that are now hiring is going to be in this sector right here. But the good news is this is the average. This is the average wages at a record high. And I point that out because this is the average, which means there's still some employers out there who have not changed the financial model that are still paying a lower wage. And those are the ones that I'm hearing from a lot about, I'm still having difficulty trying to find help. Well, if you still have the same financial snapshot that you did pre-pandemic, in today's time, you're going to continue to struggle. Now, I'm just putting out the bare facts because I hear from the employers all the time. And they always wonder, why am I still struggling? The employers who have raised their wages, those are the ones that they're not struggling as much as some of the ones that are struggling. Now, what has ADOL done to offset this? And again, I'm staying with the leisure hospitality sector. We've held, in the last year and a half or so, what we call industry-specific job fairs to make sure that we recruit employers in this sector. We also recruit job seekers to see if we can make a match. Here's the thing that makes me scratch my head. Pre-pandemic, when the unemployment rate was at the lowest it's ever been, y'all heard the number, 2.6%, our agency was hosting regional job fairs or job fairs statewide. Thousands of people were showing up for it. Thousands of people were showing up for the job fairs when the unemployment rate was at the lowest in state history. We're hosting them right now. And we barely can break 200 people to show up for those job fairs. We held an industry-specific job fair for the leisure hospitality sector in Birmingham. We were successful in recruiting somewhere around 100, 120 employers specific to this industry. Right at 100 people showed up in a 4-hour period of time. 100. we took the same initiative up to Huntsville. Again, successfully recruited about 120 employers, and we held the job fair at the Von Braun Center there in Huntsville. About 40 job seekers showed up in a 4-hour period of time. So the question is, why is that? There's a lot of factors that go into why people are not showing up, not applying for these jobs, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But the positive here is, on average, the wages in these 3 sectors, including the one sector that is still struggling, has gone up. We just have to have an honest conversation with some of those employers to get them to move their wage up. Now, a lot of time, wage is not going to be the do-all catch-all, all right? Certainly want to be able to drive that point. Wages are not going to always do it, but it's a factor. So you've got an employer A over here who's, let's just say their financial model, the entry-level wage is $8 an hour, and right down the street you got, I'll call out McDonald's, who's bringing people in at 10 to 12, sometimes $15 an hour. What do you think the job seeker is going to do if they have a choice? They're going to go for the higher wage. That's what they're doing. And again, I understand that some employers don't have the financial fortitude to move their wages up. Some can. Their model just won't allow it. But they need to do something to figure out how do they get and attract more people. So again, these are positive. New wage records for November. The next slide kind of talks to what I mentioned earlier about the unemployment rate. The slide to the left shows the unemployment rate by southeastern states. You can see that Alabama slipped to number 2. Slipped to number 2 versus Georgia with the lowest unemployment rate of any southeastern state. The graphic to the right speaks to the labor force participation rate. How many people have heard the term labor force participation rate in the last, say, 6 months? Okay. I've heard a lot more now in the last 6 months than I've heard since I've been in my appointed role. 2,785 days ago. That's when I came into this role. That's right. I count every day. Most people count the days when they get ready to retire, right? I've been counting the days since I first was appointed. So I've heard a lot about the labor force participation rate a lot in the last, say, 6 months than I have since I've been in my appointed role. So right now, the labor force participation rate in Alabama is 56.8%. A lot of times, what Alabama is sort of compared to South Carolina. South Carolina has the same population, same industry, same sort of components that Alabama has. They're slightly ahead of us. So again, I say that because you have to compare an apple to an apple and an orange to an orange. How about pre-pandemic? Pre-pandemic, the state's labor force participation rate was at 57.8%. And then all of a sudden, we took a little bit of a backslide since the pandemic, but we're right there. There's a lot of factors that go into the labor force participation rate. It's a different model. It's a different calculation versus the unemployment rate. An unemployment rate is basically a sample where BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they call households and they ask a series of questions to those people that they call. And then from that, they take the number of people that said they were unemployed and they divide it into the state's civilian labor force, and it calculates into the unemployment rate. On the other side, when you talk about the labor force participation rate, those are ones that are also actively looking for work but not working. And there's a lot more people in that equation. It could be people that are disabled. It could be people that are veterans. There's also a percentage of people in that labor force participation rate that have absolutely no desire at all to work. None. You've heard the phrase, you could take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. There are people in that equation in the labor force participation rate that have absolutely no desire to work, and they're counted into that. At the high water mark in the states, labor force participation rate, it was 1983. The state's labor force participation rate was at 63%. The national average is 63%. 1983 was 63%, but guess what? The unemployment rate was 12.3%. I bring it up to say this. Right now, the unemployment rate for the state is at 3.1%. Our labor force participation rate is at 56.8. The question I get asked is there a balance between having a low unemployment rate and a high labor force participation rate? Yeah, it is. But we got to figure out how we get some of these folks that are in this equation back into the workforce. We've got to figure that out. And there are a lot of reasons for that, a lot of reasons. But again, I wanted to point out that there's two different models here, two different equations on unemployment rate versus labor force participation rate. How many of y'all have seen the county maps that we send out every month that talks about the state's unemployment rate, then it has the county breakdown? Also in the county map, it talks about the number of people that we, or BLS, has documented as unemployed. A lot of times I'll go into a county and they'll say, wait a minute now, it says that 200 people are unemployed in the county. All I have to do is ride around the county. I see more than 300 people, hanging around on the block, not doing anything. Why is that? It's because BLS call, and they call a series of households and they ask us a certain number of questions. They may not get to all of them. And I just share with you what the definition is for the labor force participation rate, so that's why it's different. And we're certainly making strides to get it increased, but that's a harder metric to move based on the factors that I've mentioned. So the question I get asked a lot is, so what are some of the contributing factors on why is it difficult for some employers to recruit? One of those factors is this. A lot of folks out there are scared to get back in the workforce because there's a lingering fear of COVID. That's a true fact. I have a slide I'm going to point and give you some specifics on that. But yeah, this is a factor. There are a lot of people that are afraid to get back into the workforce because they're afraid of COVID. Sadly, many have died. Those who have died that were in the workforce, unfortunately, those people are not coming back. And there's a higher percentage of those people that tested positive for COVID and they're not with us anymore. People have moved into other industries. So let's go back to the leisure, hospitality, and restaurant sector. I know this for a fact. There were people that were in that industry, and then let's just say in 2 years, and believe it or not, it'd be 2 years in March 16th, that we've been dealing with this pandemic. 2 years. March 16th was when the first known announced COVID case in the state of Alabama, and coincidentally, that happened in Montgomery. So you're in that industry, and it's a tough industry. What if you were a waitress? You were a waitress in a restaurant. On a regular basis, you're waiting on a table of 10. You work your behind off to give them the best service that you've been trained to do. You walk away, they leave $1 on the table as a tip. That'd be hard, wouldn't it? Okay. Or you work in a hotel. Brought the 3 kids in there. Tore up the place. Just tore the room up. You check out. Wait staff come in and clean the room up, and it's total upheaval. And then you got to deal with COVID to try to clean somebody's room up. You were in that industry, and in 2 years, guess what? I done figured out I don't want to go back. I'm going to go to one of our career centers statewide, figure out what training programs that are out there. I'm going to get skilled up, trained up, and I'm going to move into something else. Those folks ain't coming back. Not to mention, traditionally, those jobs have paid a lower wage, even though right now the average weekly wage is at an all-time high. So some of those folks have gotten reskilled, retrained up in something else, and they ain't not coming back. Because why would you want to wait on a table and work your behind off? You might get COVID because you got one-on-one contact with the customer, and you might have $1 left on the table as a tip. Early retirements and record resignations. State government is dealing with this right now. There were people who are retirement eligible before the pandemic, and now since the pandemic, they're saying, you know what, it's rough. Why won't I continue to go back to work? And I've got my years in, I'm going to the house. That's happening at a rapid pace. Continuing issues with child care and elderly care. Now that has always been an issue before the pandemic even started. Child care, daycare, and transportation. That was happening well before the pandemic. Transportation. I know you guys are dealing with that. trying to find Class A CDL licensed workers. How do you get to work when you don't have transportation to get you to work, let alone trying to get a CDL license? And then continued skill gaps. There was a skill gap shortage prior to the pandemic. Remember when the economy was bustling? I remember sitting around in workforce groups just like this, and the question was, wow, we got all these high-skilled jobs that we're trying to fill. Where are we going to get them? Because everything was going so well. Then I would hear people would say in those groups, meetings, they'd say, well, we probably need to bust some people in from surrounding states to fill these skilled jobs. I'm like, whoa, I'm like, no, we don't need to do that. In my opinion, because we have a number of people that we report as unemployed. What if there was someone that was we report as unemployed? And this conversation about, this is before the pandemic, we got this skill gap shortage, and we want to bust people in from surrounding states. And what if I was one of the unemployed and all I needed was to go to the Career Center and have them polish up my resume, talk to me how I would interview at my peak. And I didn't know that. I didn't know those services were being offered. That's all I needed. And I didn't know. And all of a sudden you see the bus comes in from another state, dropping people off, taking a job that I could have gotten because I didn't know about what I could have learned through the Career Center. That would be a rub. It would be a rub for me. I'm just saying. So yeah, we were dealing with a skill gap shortage prior to the pandemic. These are all the reasons why some employers are having difficulty bringing people back. So I continue to get asked the question, where are the workers right now? There's not a one silver bullet answer, but it's a combination of things that's causing this. And we got to figure out what we deal with in going forward. Question?
So I know during the pandemic, a lot of people went to business for themselves, entrepreneurship. So do you know kind of when we'll kind of have some data to show exactly how many people went into business for themselves during that time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The question is there any data that we can collect to show how many people actually went in and started their own business? That's a really good question. I think I can reach out and find that answer through the Secretary of State's office because they're the ones that track who obtains business license. So I can follow up and find out what that is. That's a really, really good question. But my point is there's not a one silver bullet answer on why this issue is bad. There's a combination of things. And these are some things that I rolled up, in my opinion, our opinion, it feels like that answer the question, where are the workers? I mentioned the people that have passed away. This is something that comes straight off the state public health website. Over 16,000 people have died as a result of the coronavirus. 16,000 in almost 2 years. 16,630. And again, a high percentage of those folks that passed away had jobs. They were in the workforce. And as I said, they're not coming back. There were more COVID-related deaths in the last 2 years than people that were actually born in the state of Alabama, which is also alarming. More COVID-related deaths than birth certificates that was issued. This is a fact, and this is reality. I mentioned earlier about another difficulty for employers to try to find people. This is a report that USDOL actually has put out. It talks about a record number, 4.5 million people quit their job in November. 4.5 million. How about 80% of those folks that quit their job quit because they were afraid of testing positive for COVID. So how you make somebody get back into the workforce when they're afraid that they're going to get COVID? If y'all know that answer, please tell me. How do you convince them? Because I've just told y'all about the wages are up in those three sectors. The average weekly wage in all sectors on the average is right at $1,000 per week. What I showed you earlier was the wages in three sectors, but the average of all is about $950 a week. So I mean to pick on you, but you're looking at me. So you're not retirement eligible. You're not retirement eligible, but you're afraid of COVID. But we have all these jobs out there, and we want you to get back in it. So how am I going to convince you to say, I can offer you this opportunity where you make more money than you ever made in your life? You've got the skill set, so we've already done the assessment on you. Why won't you take the job? How do you do that? How do you convince them? We also track job ads at ADOL. Right now, there's 2 jobs postings, open job posting for every person that we report is unemployed. 2 to 1, almost 2 to 1 ratio. So there's jobs out there. So if anybody wants a job, Lisa, you can get one. 2 to 1, if you wanted it. But if they're afraid of they're going to get COVID, then, I mean, what do you do? What do you do? And in this report, they talk about how these people quitting is a sign of confidence and more evidence that the U.S. job market is bouncing back strongly. Question in the back. Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up because this is another challenge why people are not getting the workforce. So this is one point. You got 4.5 that have quit. A large percentage of those folks quit because they're afraid of COVID. What you just touched on is another challenge because there's still some federal programs out there where people can draw down from. So the states just came off the child tax credit being one thing. The child tax credit, technically, it expired in December of 2021. There is some discussion that that's going to be expanded into 2022. Not yet, but there's some discussion. So y'all are smart in this room. Y'all know what the child tax credit is. It offers $300 to a family that has a child that's from 1 to 6. If they're 7 to 17, it's $250 per child. And they base it on your dependents that you filed for on your 2019 taxes. Automatically go to your bank account. There's also what you mentioned, the increase in SNAP and TANF benefits, and those were extended. There's still some rental assistance out there, not from the feds, but there's some state and local grants out there where people can apply for rental assistance. So in my humble opinion, I think what people are doing now, they've figured out that they can manage their households on a whole lot less than they did before the pandemic. So what if you had a 2-income household? And let me just stay with the child tax credit. 2-income household. Y'all know how cost it is for child care, daycare. So spouse 1 tells spouse 2, hey, you know what? It's really expensive to have our kids in daycare. We got the CTC coming in. Why don't you stay at home? We got that coming in. You can stay here with the kids, and we don't have to worry about you going back to work. I know that's the conversation that's going on right now. I know that for a fact. But I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people, and again, I'm sticking with the CTC now, who think that's free money. They're going to get taxed on that. They're going to get taxed on it. They thought, wow, okay, I've got one child. They're between 1 and 6. It's $300 a month, $1,800 in 6 months. So they thought that's free money. When they file their taxes for 2021, they're going to have to report it. It ain't free. Y'all going to hear it. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a peek underneath the tent. So, going back to what you just said, so you got the child tax credit that was out there. Again, it technically expired in December of 2021. You got expanded SNAP and TANF benefits, but you also have some rental assistance out there. It got cut off on the federal side back in September, but there's still some state and local funds that people can draw down from. So people are managing their households on a lot less than they did before. Is a reason why folks aren't getting back in the workforce. Question?
Back on your other slide where you talked about reasons, I had also read because of the record number that were quitting their jobs are also a lot of baby boomers because of the fear of COVID because of their age.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones a lot of times who will work those part-time jobs or will work those different industry jobs that others.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is part of that.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. The baby boomer piece in there is also a factor. So again, this slide talks about the number of people that quit, and this is November of 2021, 4.5. This is nationally, and I just explained to you the reasons why some of these folks are leaving. We just talked about this. Some of the reasons, child care is an issue. Also, the child tax credit are rolled up in the national stories that we just touched on, or reasons why people are reluctant to get back into the workforce. This is a skill gap survey. This is a survey that ADOL actually launched a few years ago. And this survey was sent out to 3 different sectors: construction, utilities, and manufacturing. This is alarming because these are people that in this sector where the employers actually hire people. This is what they found out when they hired these people. You see that high percentage up there? Attendance, 33%. Let me back up. We got about a 70% return on the survey, which is pretty doggone high. 70% of the employers responded to our survey. These are people that were hired. 33% of them had issues with these folks showing up for work. And I want to tell you something, this is really alarming. I'm a past HR guy, so I know what it's like spending all this time trying to find a needle in the haystack. You done found your rock star, your 5-star athlete. You know, Allen's a 5-star. He played at Alabama, by the way. You find that 5-star, and then all of a sudden, they can't show up for work. Following instructions is second, and then critical thinking. Again, my point is, these are folks that have been hired. Not, you know how difficult it is to screen people, pass background check and drug screen and all that. You done got past all that. You done hired them. And this is what we saw. Very difficult. Again, attendance. Well, how do you can't tell that, figure that out when you're interviewing somebody, whether or not when you hire them they're going to show up to work on time or at all. You don't know that. You just hope. And they don't show up. And as y'all know, there's a huge high cost associated with turnover and trying to retrain people. You done found your superstar. And now all of a sudden, they can't show up for work. This is troubling. What do we do about this? Anybody have any suggestions? I know you do, don't you? You're the man. I had to pick on Roger. Roger, how do we respond to this? So the employer, I show them the results here, and they helped and responded to this survey. What do I tell them, Roger? Abba. Yeah. Good question.
In response to Corona and these challenges, some businesses have resorted to incumbent travel to kind of reinforce employee commitment and some of the policies and things. So that might be an effective strategy because when you stay engaged with somebody, you begin to develop a commitment to them.
I couldn't agree with you more in theory. I couldn't agree with you more in theory.
Well, we put it in
Okay. All right. Well, why are we seeing this then? I mean, because there are people that have gone through what you just said. Katrina, do you know people? I'm not asking you to call names. Katrina's the career center manager at Gaston, so I'm picking on you now. I'm sure you know people that have gone through the training through our career center, but yet they still have an issue with these things I've got listed on this slide. Wouldn't you agree? So why is that?
One thing I was just thinking about that we've been struggling too is I have some colleagues that work in high school, and one thing they keep telling me, bless them, is that these kids came in as freshmen and are coming in as juniors now, and the teachers did as much as they could, but things like attendance, things that were not consistent for them for such a long period of time, including with workers. So it's just something I'm thinking about. Obviously, we had this skills gap before the pandemic, but I think it's going to be exacerbated because all of us don't know how life works anymore, and attendance can decrease because someone gets sick or the kid's childcare. I just had a neighbor today that her kid was sent home because there was a COVID exposure. So I think that is definitely something that it's hard to try to combat right now in the middle of the pandemic, but I would assume it's going to make these numbers even worse, not to be like doomsday, but I think that's contributing to that. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that.
Yeah, very good point. I'm trying to figure out, very good point, but I'm trying to figure out how to.
Fix it, and I didn't give you an answer. You're like, great idea.
Yeah. See, we're all about trying to come up with the solutions, and that's why I'm putting the facts out here, and I'm hoping, leaning on this group to help give me the artillery. So when I go to the next regional meeting, I'm gonna say that Region 2 has answers.
So what I think is we have to start cultivating these careers with these staff at the elementary level. We cannot wait until they're older adults. We have to
She's-
start cultivating
she's
them
on it.
early and giving them experiences and giving them lifelines. And then we also have to change some mindsets that maybe not everybody is going to leave high school and go off to a four-year college to get a degree they will use and come home. That there are skills and jobs that are needed that are just as flashy, just as knowledgeable, but we're not prepping them for that. But we've got to start at elementary. If you wait till they're young adults, they've got learned behaviors and patterns, and it's too late.
Wow, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, the first thing I thought about when you said that was what Lisa mentioned about the WOW event. That's what the WOW event is all about, is to introduce students at an early age about these in-demand, high-wage jobs, and then talk to them about how you get prepared for these jobs. And
We have to take it and cultivate it there. We can't just take it to wow, and then that's an event, that was nice.
right,
We have to continue that work of what they've been exposed to.
absolutely. You had a question?
We need business partners.
It's a two-way street. That's right. You had a question? Yeah, and again, I couldn't agree with you more. I mentioned earlier we track job ads. We also track what are the in-demand high-wage jobs. Month in and month out, since I've been in my appointed role, the top 3 in-demand high-wage jobs in the state of Alabama are retail managers, RNs, and truck drivers. Month in and month out, they may change in the order, but each one of those, and you touched on something, each one of those in-demand high-wage jobs is one common denominator. They don't require a 4-year degree. You might need some training, but you don't have to have a 4-year degree in those 3 different high-wage, in-demand jobs in the state of Alabama to move into and have a really good quality of life. And that's the responsibility that we have to make sure we raise the awareness, let people know that, because some of this is cultural. You know, some of the kids that we deal with right now, they don't have the same sort of intentions. They don't have the same desires as we did when we were growing up. So we have to educate them on what those opportunities are. Have them go to the career center. Have them go to the community college system, get some training, and move right into these in-demand high-wage jobs. I've got a couple more slides, and we'll be out of here. So how are we addressing this? This is the Success Plus goal. This is one of the goals that our governor, my boss, has put together called Success Plus. Our goal is to get 500,000 more people with a stackable credential in our workforce by 2025. We've been actively working on this for a period of time. COVID set us back just a little bit, but we're right there to make sure we meet this goal. And I know, Jeff, I know you worked with Success Plus when it was first launched, so you know how important this is. You know the strategies, the plans that are put in place right now for us to meet that goal. And again, we want people to have stackable credentials, whether it be from a 2-year college or a 4-year college, that they can move right into these in-demand high-wage jobs. We're at about, 60-something% right now that people in our workforce has a stackable credential. So we need to get to somewhere around 43% more before we can reach that goal. So we're working towards that. Here's the formula for our workforce. Success Plus equals E plus T. E is education. So you see the education block on the far left. Education, you got technical colleges, trade school, community colleges, and a 4-year degree. The training side, which is the T, is apprenticeship programs, OJTs, work-based learning, and WIOA programs. So Success Plus equals E plus T. Guess what? That equates to a skilled workforce in the state of Alabama with these components. I got a 1-minute video. Let's see if it'll play. Carl, I might need your help here, sir. No, not me. This always happens. Anytime you have a video, there's always challenges. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did it a couple different ways. I put a link in there just in the event I didn't have internet access. It's real quick.
I copied and pasted.
Oh, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Copied and pasted your slides
All right.
to our master.
All right. All right. Well, guess what? This is a wonderful 60-second video. This video is about 60 seconds. It's actually running statewide right now to let people know, again, about some of the gaps, some of the challenges, some of the resources that we have to get folks back to work. You'll find it on just about every station that you run. It's not a PSA. As y'all know, PSA, they pop those in whenever there's openings, but this is actually paid advertising, and it's actually a pretty good video. All right, I mentioned that we, ADOL, we are responsible for managing 53 career centers throughout the state. The 53 career centers that we manage throughout the state, we touch all 67 counties. And you see all the different resources that we offer both to the job seeker as well as the employer. This is really important because, again, I continue to hear from employers about how difficult it is to try to find skilled workers. I was in a meeting not long ago, probably 300 or so employers in it, and they're talking about this challenge. So I asked the question. I said, I want to see a show of hands from the employers. I said, how many of y'all, by a show of hands, have reached out to the Career Center in your area and posted their open jobs? About 5 people raised their hand. My point is there's resources out there that the employer has to be able to reach out and ask for the help as well. I continue to hear from small businesses who will say, well, I run the cash register, I do the cooking, I do all this stuff on the front end. I don't have time. We host job fairs. We don't have time to participate in the job fair. So we host a job fair to connect job seekers with the employer. We have resources on our website that the employer can go to help and assist them on a daily basis. We ask them to post their jobs at the Career Center level, the ones that they need filling. And in this particular room, only 5 people out of a room of 300 raised their hand and said they had reached out to the Career Center. This is a two-way street. If you need help, the help is out there. Most of all, and I heard Lisa mention this a second ago, the services that we offer at the Career Center level comes at no cost. Doesn't cost anything. And this service is out there. All right, so what questions do you have before I move the mic on? What questions do you have? All right.
I live in Subway restaurant where I live, and I asked the And I said, why is that? And she said, because they cut their sandwiches with a knife, and there's an issue with a 16 or 17-year-old cutting sandwiches at Subway because of the knife.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wanting to find out if you could kind of touch on that, just really briefly as to why that is.
Well, that question has never come up before, not that specific questions, but they can't hire if they're 16 years of age. Now, there's some jobs that are, let's just say, a little bit more challenging, that are a little bit more restrictive, where they may be prohibited. Like we won't allow a 16-year-old to work in construction on the rooftop. Okay, right. So I get it if they're cutting, but there's some other jobs at Subway I've got to know that they can do without cutting a sandwich.
She said it is absolutely Subway's policy that they will not hire under
Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
period, like,
Yeah.
they will not do
Right.
it. She said it's a corporate decision, so I didn't know if that was
Mhm.
something that Alabama could kind of work with some other corporations to see it. 'Cause when I was in high school, I mean, we went to work at Dairy Queen. I mean, they were 16, 17-year-olds working at Dairy Queen. They would leave and go to their work, and then they would come back. I mean, it wasn't something that was unheard of, and I don't see that a lot.
And see, what strikes me odd about that question, there are other franchisee restaurants out there who I just don't think that's the case across the board, but it may be just Subway. But I've not heard that question about Subway, not ever.
Well, that's what, because I asked.
Yeah.
I was getting my sandwich Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked that. I said, I don't ever see, like, teenagers
Right.
working in a sandwich.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that has a Firehouse Subs franchise. I'll ask. Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. What other questions? All right. If there's no other questions, I'll yield the mic back to you.
So let's just give them a round of applause. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And to help everybody out, we will send the link to the video so everybody can watch the cool video and make sure that you have access to that information. On the back of your agenda, you'll see the locations of the 5 career centers that service East Alabama. When East Alabama was looking to hire our 2 staff members, Carl and Abby, we posted both of those jobs with the help of the Alabama Career Center. Thank you. Anytime I can get an applause from Secretary Washington, it's always a good day. Absolutely, yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So I'm going to put the microphone back in the stand. We are so excited to be able to talk about a program, talk about money that's available to our business and industry for training. I'm going to introduce Terry Comer. Terry is with the Alabama Department of Commerce, and she's going to share with you some exciting news about the Alabama Workforce Stabilization Program.
Now, I've never done this. Back here, and the presentation is over there, but we're gonna try to make all this work some kind
But
of
you
way.
can see them right there, Terry.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make
Okay.
all this work. I'm trying to do 3 things at one time. Unlike Secretary Washington, with all of those thousands of days on the job, I've only been doing this job for roughly 148 days. But I'm happy, because I've been in the workforce for well over 30 years, and I've been with Department of Commerce for over 25 years, dealing with on-the-job training and helping employers find workers, and also provide incentives for them to hire and train skilled workers and unskilled workers. How many of you out there, before I get into the presentation, are actual employers? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Don't be afraid, because I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. We have a brand new program, and like I say, I've only been doing this for about 148, 150 days. Alabama Stabilization Program, AWSP. That's what I'm going to be referencing throughout this presentation. I'm going to be real brief. I'm not going to go through all the slides in great detail, but I will touch on the ones that I feel are important. We are traveling as a team right now across the state of Alabama to provide this training in great details to all of our Career Center staff across the state. So if you know of employers that are in these locations that you think would like to hear our presentation, please invite them. Please give me a call. My information is on the last slide of your handout. And my handout is the red handout that looks like this, okay? All right, so AWSP. This is a $17 million grant. It's part of the CARES Act. It started October 2020. I was not on board then. And it's scheduled to run out September 30th, 2023. So I have a lot of work to do, folks, in about a year and a half. And a lot of people to try to get trained, and a lot of people to try to get back into the workforce. This particular grant focused on 5 sectors, 5 high-demand sectors in the state that people are looking to go to work in. And they are healthcare, advanced manufacturing, information technology, transportation, distribution and logistics, all of that's one sector, and construction. We're looking to provide short-term training to over 7,000 Alabamians. It's hard, but we're trying to do it. And our second goal is to help industries like yourself or employers like yourself avoid layoff by upskilling people that are currently working for you that may need some type of additional skills, and to provide Alabama with a talent pipeline. Okay, the next slide. These are some of our partners across the state. And this is kind of how it works. We have a Commerce Workforce Investment Board staff person, that's Joel Henderson. He's not here today. We have the Regional Workforce Council liaison, Roger, who is here with you. And then we have the ACCS, the Community College Training Provider part of it. And then we have a supportive tool, which provides support services. Again, this grant offers 2 components. One, new hire, where you're training new folks to come in to work for you. And right now you're saying it's hard to get them to come in. And then we have a second component, incumbent workers, your current or existing employees that you need some type of upskilling for, okay? Let me say this too, and Mr. Washington touched on this. For this particular type of program, AWSP, we're hoping workers will make $12 an hour. And either they make $12 an hour coming on the program as a new hire, $12 an hour being an existing employee of yours, or when they complete the training, you give them an increase of $12 an hour. Okay? Area 2. Over 3 years, we're hoping to have about 700 folks employed in this area or have utilized this program by year 3, 708. And right now, we're in year 2, and we have none in area 2 that have used AWSP. Now, these are 5 high demand sectors for the state. And what we have developed is what we call MAP, Mobilizing Alabama Pathways. These allow existing workers and new hires to get a credentials. These are credentials that have been developed by a curriculum for the 5 sectors that are in demand in this state. And those are the 5 sectors, and those are the 5 MAPS program. Now, a couple of ways you can participate. Of course, you can contact Lisa, and she'll contact us. You have Roger, you have the Career Center, and you have your ACCS representative that you can also contact. Once they have been contacted, then someone will sit down with you as an employer and explain the program to you. Again, you see the $9, and the $12, excuse me, and we compensate $9 of the $12. If you pay $15 an hour, we still compensate $9 on the OJT end of it. Incumbent worker, we provide the training costs for training that you would need for your income workers, your current workers that work for you. All of our applications, which is just a 1-page application, and we'll show you that in a second, They go before a 3-member panel, and the 3-member panel in this particular area votes on that application. And most of the applications are favorable unless you're not in one of the 5 sectors or something is way out in the left field. All employers submit the same type of paperwork as if you were doing WIOA, OJT, which is your Beeson Hammond, your disclosure, and your E-Verify. This is how the one-page application looked. And again, Lisa, Roger, the Career Center staff can help you complete the application. You can request both types of training on this one application. The application is under new development because we have a couple of little glitches in it. But you can request both types of training on this one application. You can request OJT and incumbent worker training for your existing employees. Again, it's $9 that we compensate for the OJT part of it. The new hire. This is just talking about some of the eligibility. Mainly the Career Center handles all of this. Incumbent worker, Lisa, Roger, mainly sit down with the employee to see what is it that you exactly need. Because, you know, everybody don't have the same shoe size, so everybody may need something different. So we sit down with you to try to figure out what is it that you're looking for in an employee or your existing employees. What kind of training are you looking to do? With this grant being an educational grant, there is a credential requirement, and that's what Lisa and ACCS and the Career Center staff must establish, that some type of credential will come out of the training. And again, employers are compensated once the training is complete, whether it's through one of the community colleges or whomever, or if it's OJT, we compensate you when the training is complete. I'm gonna skip to right here. And we had one application, and that's your one application that was submitted, and we're working today, hopefully, to try to work this particular application out and some things out with this particular company. Again, for this particular program, it's 5 sectors. We went over those sectors with you: healthcare, information technology, transportation, logistics, construction, and advanced manufacturing. What else? There are 2 components to this program. On-the-job training for a max of 225 hours, a minimum of less than 40 hours. I'll give you an example. We have a big contract with Toyota Mazda in the Huntsville-Decatur area with 650 clients for only 56 hours of training for $210,000. There are a lot of services, folks, through the Career Center. And as Secretary Washington said, a lot of folks are not taking advantage of it because their answer is, I don't have time. Because you don't have time, you're losing a lot of money. And if you don't use the money, we have other areas in the state that want your money. And so I highly encourage you to contact us regarding AWSP and find out more about it. It is harmless because we do all the paperwork for you. We just require of you those 3 documents, and we take it from there. But the main piece is, for this particular grant, it's an educational grant, so it requires a credential. Do you have any questions of me? That's just the down and dirty version of it because Mr. Washington took a lot of y'all time. So, this is me. This is me. And so if you need to contact me, and you know how to contact Lisa, and you know how to contact Roger, but seriously, this is the down and dirty version of the AWSP program. This is a wonderful program, a lot of money, $17 million. And it's for employers who have been affected by COVID. And everybody's been affected by COVID. Yes, ma'am, I have 2 questions. Great.
So are you only targeting those
Mr. Washington, I'm doing what, okay, yes, ma'am.
Regarding the training as a part of presentation, will the business be relegated to using Alabama-based, learning, providers?
That is a good question. If at all possible. Now, we are looking into doing some things possibly outside the state of Alabama, but we are trying to work with ACCS, ATN, and other training providers in state first to see can we come up with a curriculum that meets your need as an employer. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
For the 225 max hours, is that a full-time worker or can it rotate the opportunity part-time?
Excellent question. All of these workers must be full-time. Now, full-time looks a little different these days, okay? You know, full-time used to be 40-plus hours. Full-time can be 32 hours. Full-time can be 35 hours. Full-time can be 38 hours. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
So, I know that we talk a lot about OJT when it comes to the original OJT.
Right.
1,080 hours.
Right.
225, and it's really important to have this money for 225, because sometimes that other money doesn't exist. How are you guys combining, like someone comes in, they do their OJT.
Stacking them. Stackable.
What comes first?
Okay. Very good question. You must have used our program before. Okay, you on top of things. Okay, all right, she has a great question. Okay, we have the regular OJT money, WIOA, where you get reimbursed every month for every hour worked. And that training can range from 6 weeks to 1,040 hours, 6 months, 6 weeks to 6 months. Okay, they go through an eligibility for that training, right? So if we're gonna stack them, we gotta start with WIOA first. Eligibility is a requirement. That type of eligibility that deals with income and layoff and et cetera, okay? Because eligibility for AWSP is 3 things: 18 years of age, US citizen, selective service, if it's a male, and BSD. Because it's an education grant, everybody that's a new hire with this grant and everybody that's an incumbent worker, your existing employee, they take a test called TABE. So most people are BSDs. And so that's the requirement for this particular grant. So when they finish your WIOA, we're gonna say WIOA 600 hours. I ain't gonna give you 1,000. Well, they finish your WIOA 600 hours and you wanna do AWSP, preferably AWSP incumbent worker training, we can do that.
You have to be WIO eligible to take advantage of the OJT portion of this, like you have to do for the OJT for that 1,040?
Yes, ma'am, you have to be WIOA eligible. Yes, ma'am.
And I was gonna say, at my age, if I took the TABE, I would be basic skills sufficient.
99% of the applicants that we have TABE are BSD. And I would be BSD too. It's a pretty tough test. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, on the incumbent worker side of the program, where the training take place?
At the job site. Yeah, on the job site. So far, most of them are right there on the job site. We have a couple of unique situations. Like I say, everybody is different with this. We have all kind of situations. We have the Toyota Monster situation, where you're talking about 650 OJT clients. 650, we never had that many on the OJT contract. But with AWSP, because we have so much money, we can do it. And they're only gonna train for, I think it's 56 hours. We have a situation in North Alabama where they're gonna do a piece at the nursing home, then another piece at a community college. So it's different situation. You tell us what you're in need of as an employer, we try to work it out for you. And I don't try to work it all out for you. I showed you the partners. So when it comes to the credentials and the certificates, that's a real important piece of this grant. We have folks that deal with that part and actually help you with coming up with that part of the pie and the part of the program for this. Yes, ma'am. I know it. I know it. And I'm planning on meeting with Mr. Bridgewater after this meeting. And anyone else who,
Already discussed the problem with him with lack of like a computer lab to do things on site. I mean, that is an issue that we've already discussed with him. It's not that we don't know that we have some issues to deal with. So that's what, you know, you're saying now, that some things could be done at one place and some things could be done at another.
yes, yes.
Thank you.
All right, let's give Terry a round of applause.
Thank you,
Terry.
thank you. I'm sorry.
Perfect, you gave me 1 minute to spare. So on behalf of the Board of Directors from East Alabama Works, obviously you all just met Mr. Bridgewater. Kelvin Wright, he is our East Alabama Works Board Chair, and we appreciate Kelvin's commitment to East Alabama Works, as well as our other board members who are here with us today. Thank you, Secretary Washington. We appreciate you being here. You're welcome to East Alabama anytime your schedule permits. And I know you probably make side trips to the career centers. You know, stop by the office and we'll chat some more.
Can I give 15 minutes of my time back to Terry over here?
I think you teed her up really well. So everything you talked about, you know, certainly was lined up for Terry. And Terry, thank you so much for your presentation. We have a lot of money to spend in East Alabama. We want to spend those dollars. We don't want somebody else to take our money. We want to spend them to train our citizens. We want to thank Jeff Lynn, President Lynn, and Dean Michael Barnett. They had to step out, but we have a great host, and their hospitality is always far exceeds, you know, our expectations. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us virtually, whether you're here by Zoom, whether you're here in person. Thank you so much. Our next quarterly workforce meeting is going to be April 19th. Again, we'll do an in-person and a virtual option starting at 1 o'clock that day. Stay tuned to the location. We will secure that and let you know ahead of time. And again, thank you for being here. Your commitment to East Alabama Works and to East Alabama citizens far goes beyond what we appreciate you. You give your time, you give your energy, you give your talents. And if it wasn't for you, there would not be an East Alabama Works. So thank you, and we stand adjourned.